Hi, welcome or welcome back to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and this is Thursday Night Poetry. What a long week it's been, and I'm happy it's Thursday night, and tomorrow will be Friday. And tonight I wanted to share some fantasy poems. I finished The Weaver and the Witch Queen by Genevieve Gornichec this week. This has been a buddy read that I've been doing with Melinda at a Web of Stories, and she finished a few weeks back. And it took me a little longer to get to it because of my distraction, which I've talked about in past videos, talked about political anxiety on my channel. And I was just not in the right headspace for it. But this week, my mind has been a little bit more clear and a little bit more engaged with fantasy tropes, and I'm really craving more fantasy, and I really enjoyed The Weaver and the Witch Queen. I rated it 4 stars, and I wanted to read more fantasy, and I was looking at my poetry collection looking for like fantastical or fantasy poems, and I'm sad to say I only have one collection that is fantasy based. And it is Fierce Fairytales, Poems and Stories to Stir Your Soul by Nikita Gill. I really like this poetry collection, and so I thought that tonight I'd read a few poems from it. As you can see, I've tapped them. Because I enjoyed The Weaver and the Witch Queen, which is a reimagining based on Norse mythology, I thought I would look for poems that have some of the themes. So the themes of the Weaver and the Witch Queen are strong female friendships, mother-daughter relationships, witches, the Weaver, the whole concept of weaving and healers and healing. So that's what I'm looking for in this poetry collection. I found some that fit. So let's get started. So the first poem that I want to read from this collection by Nikita Gill is titled The Tale Weaver. When I was a little girl, I had a friend, and sometimes I wondered if he was born on the day the Titanic sank. Other days he has been here longer than the pyramids themselves. He told me stories about a world I still can't even imagine. A world where a simple smile could set into motion events that could destroy countries. An almost Earth where the stars talk and the moon listens. A realm where one can find adventures like dragons who save knights and weather that moves on a person's command instead of the other way around. I always listened in awe and wonder at how such things could be when murder, unhappiness, and sacrifice plague my world. His stories were always hauntingly beautiful. Sometimes he would tell me about all the princesses he once tried to save. They always end so horribly. They got taken away to their castles to live with pompous men who claimed they were really saving them, when the truth was, it was him, but still he failed. He always lost them in the end. His voice was so unfathomably soft, it sounded unearthly, but his words had so much meaning, so much truth in them, that the depths of his voice could only come from wisdom. It is still the only voice that has ever truly made me smile since I was a little girl. He told me about people who hate him, who wish he was gone from this earth, and that made me terribly sad. How can anyone ever have thought that a voice that tells such stories was anything but kind? His eyes were so old, his soul showed through them. It was frayed and fragile, like silk, accidentally amongst moths, still beautiful, still soft, and sometimes it had patches of darkness across it, patches that, if I asked him about, he pretended he didn't hear me, but he did. I know because his eyes went dark with something I could not understand. I know because it was when he disappeared. I know because those were the only times I remembered that he was not just my friend. He was the monster that hid under my bed. The next poem is titled Of Kings and Queens. Did you think they did it alone? Built whole armies and conquered thrones? Constructed promised lands that would outlive the sun? Resurrected prosperity from ashes and bone? A family crest is not just a man-made thing. It is also created by generations of women who wield swords through guile and letters. Show me your kings, and I will show you the queens that willed them, that bred them, that taught them to be better. The Weaver and the Witch Queen, one of the things that I liked about it was that it had really complicated and difficult mother-daughter relationships. I like stories about complicated mothers and daughters, about um, broken parent-child relationships, and I think that there's a kind of fire, a kind of beauty that is harnessed in the breaking and the tensions and the complexities, like the nuances of those relationships, and they're difficult. And I like it when a poem can evoke emotions about these relationships. So here's Mothers and Daughters. She will not always be compassionate. Sometimes the brush will pull your hair too hard on purpose when running through it. Sometimes her voice will be loud, so incensed your palms will turn clammy, icy with fear. Sometimes her mouth will twist into something not a smile, not benevolent, and she will be all the things that you thought only stepmothers can be. Her pain received no outlet. Her injuries healed wrong, and she had to drink her own wounds to continue to exist. No one ever taught her she would have to do this. She does her best to keep the beast in her own belly at bay. Be good, be kind, be wise all day. There is no room for her pain. But at the end of it all, we all forget she is only human. Forgive her for how her agony reveals itself, child. This is how blood magic works. Unconditional never. Meant perfect anyway. And there's this beautiful drawing of mother and daughter. This next poem I chose because it's titled The Shapeshifter, and in The Weaver and the Witch Queen there's a scene in which shape-shifting occurs. And I love it. I love a shapeshifter. Um, there's this beautiful um, drawing, and this is the shapeshifter. You think I am made of lore and sugar, easy clay for your hands to make your very own happy ending, and I am anything but. Women learn early how to shed whole selves but still make it look pretty, as if ugly is a crueler destiny than death. What I am trying to tell you is I am used to giving up whole pieces of myself just to survive without even saying goodbye to the girl I used to be. This is what women must do. Carve ourselves out of flesh that they tell us is borrowed from men. Teach ourselves how they were wrong, how we were always stronger without you. And the last poem I want to read tonight is For All Our Hidden Witches. And of course, the Witch Queen. There are witches. There are three witches that are the story centers around. So this poem is titled For All Our Hidden Witches. That night, after the last betrayal, I reached inside and pulled the grief from my belly, stared at it, dark things all those people had done to me, retold myself that there is still a God that resides within me, something softer than what the mirror lets me see, that some witch ancestry in me is still left, a few potions still within this heart, to punish without mercy those who have given me lies. They tried so hard to end me with words, took their time and poisoned every friend I had in this foreign place, no home to me, but still my fate. So too I opened my lips and let out a curseless refrain, the curse being formed not for magic, but pain. Let me live this life better than my enemies. It has taken me some time to learn that although karma exists, you can let your hatred go, not by destroying your own magic, but by letting it grow. I think that's beautiful. That was titled For All Our Hidden Witches. And this is the collection Fierce Fairytales by Nikita, Gill. A little bit about Nikita Gill. She is a British Indian writer and poet living in the south of England and the author of Wild Embers, poems of rebellion, fire, and beauty. With a huge online following, her words have entranced hearts and minds all over the world. You can find her on social media. And a little bit about this collection. It says, traditional fairy tales are rife with cliches and gender stereotypes, beautiful, silent princesses, ugly, jealous, and bitter villainesses, girls who need rescuing, and men who take all the glory. But in this rousing new prose and poetry collection, Nikita Gill gives Once Upon a Time a much-needed modern makeover through her gorgeous reimagining of fairy tale classics and spellbinding original tales. She dismantles the old-fashioned tropes that have been ingrained in our minds. In this book, gone are the docile women and male saviors. Instead, lines blur between heroes and villains. You will meet fearless princesses, a new kind of wolf lurking in the concrete jungle, and an independent Gretel who can bring down monsters on her own, complete with beautifully hand-drawn illustrations by Gill herself. Fierce Fairytales is an empowering collection of poems and stories for a new generation. It is an empowering collection, and I love the artwork in it too. So thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much for being here to listen to poetry and just enjoy a little bit of rhyme and spoken word. And If you have any fantasy poetry collections that you would recommend, please let me know. I would love to add more fantasy bent poetry to my collection. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, all the things. And we'll talk again soon. Hasta la próxima.